Thank you, everybody, for coming to the Aaron Torres Podcast YouTube page. If you could do me a quick favor, see that little subscribe button at the bottom of your screen? Go ahead, click that subscribe button. Really does help our channel grow, our audience grow, and I really do appreciate it more than you know. So click that subscribe button. Appreciate your support. Now, here's the video that you came here for. In one specific place, in one specific school, and that is the University of Alabama, okay? Because I just got a simple question for you, and I got a simple question for the audience. We have seen some great empires in the history of planet Earth. The Incas, the Mayans, the Ottoman Empire, all those crazy empires that you read about in history books. Well, here's my question. Are we watching the fall of Alabama football in real time? I'm not saying we're there yet, but we seem to be getting closer and closer every day. So I want to tell you what's going on at Alabama. And more specifically, I want to tell you about one specific player and just an insane story that popped up over the course of the last couple of days. So first off, if you're an Alabama fan, I do think you have to be in a little bit of panic mode, okay? Listen, I understand this time of year, and we did a short clip on Monday on the Aaron Torres Pod YouTube channel. I understand that there's roster churn at every single FBS school at this time of year. I even saw like the playoff teams of the 12 playoff teams. Notre Dame's the only one that hasn't had a player enter yet. And Marcus Freeman basically acknowledged, yeah, some guys are going to enter. Probably we're just kind of waiting to see how the playoff shakes out before guys make their official decision. So everybody deals with roster churn. Everybody deals with players going in and players going out. But what you've seen at virtually every school, especially the schools that aren't in the playoff, by the way, is they may be losing guys, but they're adding guys left and right. LSU seems like they're picking up 2 or 3 commitments every day. Ole Miss, who we're going to certainly talk about, is loading up in the portal. Auburn, every single day. They add Jackson Arnold. They add whatever. Well, what's going on at Alabama right now? You know that Alabama, as of Tuesday morning, if my math is correct, Damon Payne was a defensive tackle. He entered the portal. That is now 15 players from Alabama's roster this year that have now entered the portal. And you know how many players have committed to Alabama during this portal cycle? 0. Zip 0. As Jay-Z said, stingy with De Niro. Maybe that's the problem at Alabama. They're stingy with the De Niro, okay? But I bring it up because Alabama, 15 players have entered the portal. 0 players have committed. And I'm just here to ask the simple question, is Alabama getting bullied by everybody else in the SEC? But also, here's the question. Are they getting bullied by their own players? Because we have seen just a wild story over the last probably 12 hours or so unfold as we record here at 1 Central Time in Tuscaloosa. That story involves a player by the name of Jaylen Mbakwe, okay? Now, if you're not a recruiting diehard or an Alabama football diehard, you might not know the name. But Jaylen Mbakwe was one of the highest rated recruits in Alabama's last recruiting cycle, not the one that just signed a few weeks ago. But in the 2024 cycle, he was rated as the number 12 overall player in America. And he was a player that is from Alabama. And on Monday, as you can see on the screen, Jaylen Mbakwe officially entered the transfer portal. Where it gets interesting, and this is, again, everybody deals with transfers, but where it gets interesting is pretty straightforward. This kid does not really fit the bill of the traditional player that enters the transfer portal. He is from the state of Alabama, okay? So it's not like he's from California or Arizona or New York or New Jersey or whatever, and he's homesick. He wants to get closer to home. He played, by the way, this year. 15 tackles, return kicks, return punts. He actually had a couple really big plays in that Georgia game when Alabama beat Georgia at home. So he played, he is from Alabama, and he decides to enter the portal. Now, what gets interesting is that right before he entered the portal, there were some very interesting reports from Alabama reporters that this could be coming, and the insanity behind what could potentially be happening for a player that was projected to be a star next year, an impact player next year who's from Alabama. So I saw this on social media. Now, it's behind a paywall, but somebody posted a screenshot. So the reporter is named Charlie Potter. Charlie, I apologize. I'm not stealing your work. Somebody else posted this on Twitter. This wasn't Torres stealing your work, okay? But Charlie Potter said on Sunday night that this move could be coming. Here is what he wrote on one of the Alabama message boards. Again, I did not personally screenshot this. This was on Twitter, so don't get mad at me if you're an Alabama fan or somebody who's working for Alabama's On3 site. I'm just going off what was already online, okay? According to Charlie Potter, who is a great reporter, he said, we're hearing rumors Jaylen Mbakwe is going to enter the portal. As of today, we feel it's very likely. This is where it gets interesting. He received a 7-figure offer elsewhere, so this would be a business decision. It sounds like he also wants to be guaranteed a starting job, which might not be available at Alabama next season, with Zabian Brown coming back and Damani Jackson's looming NFL draft decision. There is talk of him playing both ways too, so there is a lot at play here. The Alabama staff and NIL side are aware of the situation and understand it's a business decision. So Jaylen Mbakwe, that was a report that came out on Sunday leading into Monday. He officially hits the portal. And if you thought that that is where it stopped, where the insanity, where the craziness stopped, I think again, and let me tell you why. It is because on Monday night, Alabama fans are freaking out. Everybody's trying to figure out what's going on. Then what happens? Oh, Ryan Williams, who was Alabama's best skill position player. Ryan Williams posts something on Instagram. You can see it on our Torres on Bama account. Drew, who runs our Torres on Bama account, is doing a great job just trying to piece through all this. Ryan Williams posts on Instagram. He said it's a picture of him and Jaylen Mbakwe, and it says, bingo, we got action. Why do I bring it up? It is because that Instagram post sent a frenzy through the Alabama fan base. And it was really interesting because I think some people thought, does this mean Ryan Williams is entering the transfer portal? But then I saw other people that actually thought it was the opposite. Does this mean that Ryan Williams is insinuating that Jaylen Mbakwe, even after entering the transfer portal, was likely to come back to Alabama? So I want to go ahead and dive in. First of all, I'll tell you this. I'll just be transparent. I did some kind of research on this. I called some people that would be in the know. The sense that I got is that it actually wasn't as NIL related as people think. It was really a decision about playing time. And more specifically, what I'm told is Jaylen Mbakwe, he really does want to play both ways. He really does want to be the next Travis Hunter, wants to play on offense, wants to play on defense. And what was interesting was following the Ryan Williams post, there is a belief in a lot of circles at Alabama that Jaylen Mbakwe will eventually come out of the portal and eventually return to Alabama. My assumption is with some sort of guarantee that he is going to get touches on the offensive side of the football. So that is what's going on. But I also think this conversation speaks to two very interesting things in the state of college football right now. One is Alabama. One is the bigger picture of college football. And at Alabama, I think the very simple question is, does that man on the screen, Kalen DeBoer, have a pulse of his locker room? And then I think the bigger question about college football specifically is, what the heck is even going on in this sport? So with the Kalen DeBoer stuff, you know, what comes to mind when I think about what could be happening with Kalen DeBoer at Alabama. By the way, I know I'm going to have people criticize me, so I'll just get out in front of it. I was the guy that said, don't doubt DeBoer. I was the guy that ranted and raved how great he was doing last January and February when he took the job. But I got to wonder, with all of this going on, with not only Jaylen Mbakwe entering the portal, but you got his teammates Instagramming stuff, and what does that mean? And fans are going crazy and all that. I do wonder if he has the pulse of that locker room and all the questions that people asked about him being ready for the SEC. I do think they were probably fair to ask, and I do think they're fair to ask now. And when I think about what's going on in Alabama, it reminds me of the conversation that we had on last Thursday's show about Bill Belichick. If you remember, we talked Belichick, and I asked a very simple question. I said, is he going to have people that understand college football on his staff? It's not just about hiring a bunch of dudes that have evaluated people in the NFL or females that have evaluated people in the NFL. It's not about bringing a pro-style system. It is about bringing in people who understand all the moves that get made every single day behind the scenes in college football. Who are the agents? Who are the power brokers? Who are the people that are in the ear of the best players in America? And this is a perfect example of that, is that clearly somebody is advising Jaylen Mbakwe that he either needs to leave or that he's going to get more money or that he's this or that he's that or that he's whatever. And so I just bring it up because this is exactly what we talked about with Bill Belichick. It's actually what we're going to talk about with Zach Smith here in just a minute. Zach Smith coached college football. And one thing we talk about is like, man, in this world, you have to have a pulse on your locker room. Every single kid, and it's not just the head coach's responsibility, it's the position coaches, it's et cetera. But you have to have an understanding of who's actually really happy, who wants more money, who wants more playing time, who thinks that he's better than the guy in front of him, who is getting paid like he should be a starter but isn't. There's so many things you have to have a pulse on. And right now, seeing a story like this, I'll be honest, it sort of looks like Jaylen Mbakwe doesn't really have a great feel for what's going on in his locker room. Now, in Jaylen Mbakwe's defense, they do have 2 visitors on campus today. I've been told there's maybe some silent commits behind the scenes that I'm not privy to share right now out of respect to those players. But also, it does not look good for Jaylen Mbakwe. I do think the bigger picture, and this is a conversation that's happening everywhere across college football. College football is in a crazy place right now, okay? And I think about the fact that Jaylen Mbakwe is a guy making $8-9 million a year. And on Monday night, you know what he was doing? This is not a Jaylen Mbakwe insult. It's just a fact. He's putting out fires on social media. He's trying to renegotiate with this kid and his agent. And I know he's not doing it. The collective is. But, he's trying to figure out, okay, what does this kid want? How are we going to get him back? How does it happen? What do we need to do? All of that. And then on top of it, he's supposed to be preparing for a bowl game. He's supposed to be evaluating players for his own team in the portal. And it just speaks to how crazy college football is right now. I saw Ross Dellinger put out a report on Tuesday morning where he just basically said, look at the state of things right now. You have coaches literally giving back money to help fund NIL. Now, I think part of it is the coaches are Mike Norvell, worst season pretty much in program history. Oklahoma State, pretty much worst season under Mike Gundy. Brian Kelly, disappointing season at LSU. So I think a lot of the guys that are giving back money transparently are kind of like, I don't really have a choice because I ain't going to be able to raise money. But we have revenue sharing coming. Everybody's trying to figure out, how does revenue sharing work? How much money do we need? What's sustainable? What can we even take from our boosters? Because the NCAA is trying to limit booster interaction when boosters have basically been running things for the last couple years. So I just bring it up because this whole story speaks to the craziness of college football right now in 2024. And I was talking to somebody about this on Monday. I think it's worth noting why it feels crazier now. One, it just is. But two, I think this is really kind of the first wave of players that kind of came up in high school with NIL. Think about this. Remember that famous 2022 recruiting class at Texas A&M? All those guys are juniors right now going into their senior year. So if it was crazy back then, imagine all these guys now that were freshmen in college or seniors in high school or juniors in high school, knowing NIL was going to be a factor in their recruitment. So these guys kind of, I believe, have an understanding of the value not only that they have, but also the power that they have over schools, over collectives, over players, whatever. So I bring it up. We're going to keep you updated on this Jaylen Mbakwe story. I still think there's actually a pretty good chance that he returns to Alabama, but it just shows you how freaking crazy the world of college football is right now.